at this time, Nicole and Andrew, and we have words from my nephews in Greece, Vasily and Nicholas. They'd like to say a few words.
Hi everyone. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Nicole and I am Helen's granddaughter. I want to thank you all today for coming to join us in remembering my grandmother. Helen, or Nana, as I affectionately call her, was a truly wonderful grandmother. She was incredibly warm and giving to my brother Andrew and me, and I always adored her. Nana was a very important presence during all phases of my life. When we were younger, we visited her and my grandfather in Chicago frequently. I remember fondly how she would scream with excitement when we surprised her at the front door of her house in Lake Forest. Nana also came down to Atlanta often to see us. I remember how she came to every grandparents' day at my elementary school, where I proudly introduced her to my teachers, and to see me dance and many Nutcracker performances. As we got older and it became harder for us to schedule Chicago visits, Nana often stayed with us in Atlanta for extended periods of time and became something of a fixture in our house, sitting at her spot at the kitchen table. She always seemed to have something for me, whether it was a little necklace or extra spending money, or her famous Curavieras cookies that she had made. All of my girlfriends who often stopped by the house knew Nana and loved her as well. When I graduated from high school and went off to college, I spent my first year at Northwestern, not too far from Nana's house. I remember how she and Uncle Dean picked me up from my dorm nearly every Sunday to take me out to eat, and always gave me the leftovers that I could snack on instead of dorm food. Nana frequently called my dorm phone to check in on me, and left voicemails that made my roommate and me laugh, where she simply said, "Hi, it's Nana, bye." In my years after college, we saw Nana over Thanksgivings and Christmases in Atlanta. She volunteered to judge Iron Chef competitions between Andrew and me, but ultimately never came down with final decisions because she didn't want to hurt anyone's feelings. Nana's last air travel was to come down to Atlanta at age 97 to attend my wedding to my husband Jerry in May 2015. It meant the world to us to have her make that trip for our special day. Jerry and I got to spend more time with her in the past year and a half since we moved to Chicago, and we have loved being able to stop by her house in Lake Forest. Every time we would walk into the living room where she was sitting in her special chair, her jaw would drop and eyes would open very wide in excitement. She was always very welcoming to Jerry too, and specifically invited him over to her house anytime. I think that Nana's defining characteristic was that she made us feel loved unconditionally. She was an incredibly generous, kind, and caring grandmother. While I am so sad that Nana has left us, I feel very lucky that I got to have her in my life for as long as we did. Nana, I love you and will always miss you.
That's a tough one to follow, but I'm Andrew, Nicole's little brother, obviously Helen's grandson. So Nana was a truly wonderful person who has always been a profoundly loving and positive influence on my life. Growing up, I had the pleasure of visiting Nana's house many times over summers and during the holidays, as did many of you in this room, and I know we can all recall the warmth of her presence and the welcoming nature of her home. I also spent time staying on my own at Nana's house while attending various summer camps in the Lake Forest area. Nana and of course my Uncle Dean were always taking great care of me, made me feel like I was at my own home. Nana always ensured my comfort and would even go to the great extent of making sure I have very specific kitchen stocks full of favorite foods and my favorite snacks, even the sugary ones, much like my mom does today when I'm at home. Even when I would make occasional mistakes like making a mess of the living room, or even worse, hitting a baseball clean through the kitchen window from the backyard, or even, as Jessica just reminded me, screwing around with the electric chair that goes up and down the stairs. Nana was always very forgiving, and I realize now that Nana was probably just content to have me around, regardless of the havoc that I wreaked. I think Nana and I always spent the most time together, however, at our home in Atlanta over the holidays. While most everyone in the house would be running around due to the hectic holiday season, I would find myself getting a lot of one-on-one time with Nana, as we were generally the oldest and youngest ones around. When it became tough for Nana to walk around the crowded stores and shopping, I was often the designated wheelchair pusher on shopping trips, a task which I rather enjoyed. This gave me the opportunity to catch up with Nana, but also have a little fun zigzagging through the aisles a little bit, though Nana was never the least bit shy in letting me know loudly when the casual stroll was turning into more of a roller coaster ride. Back home, we would often sit and munch on some Chick-fil-A at the kitchen table. I would provide updates on school and my life, and we would debate about whether to watch ESPN or Meet Me in St. Louis. I think it's pretty clear who preferred which one of the two. Then, and only when Nana knew that no one was around, she would quietly summon me to her side and proceed to stick some cash in my hand, telling me she's proud of me and to make sure I spend it on something that I wanted. Finally, Nana would then promptly request that I crank up the thermostat, and as usual, quiz me on whether I'd go to college in Chicago, grad school in Chicago, get a job in Chicago, so on and so forth. Fortunately, I did have the chance to go to school in Evanston and be very close to Lake Forest. And just like they did for Nicole, Nana and Uncle Dean would pick me up and take me out to Sunday brunches and dinners around Evanston. Our go-to choice has since been closed down, and in retrospect, I don't think Nana cared for the food that much, but I think she knew I really liked it, and she would always order something with the pure intent of giving it to me as leftovers, which was always greatly appreciated by me as a hungry college kid. In addition, as part of a class project, I even had the chance to interview Nana about her upbringing and her life as a young adult. And it was really enlightening for me to hear about her educational and professional achievements, particularly for a young woman in that day and age. While I ended up leaving Chicago after graduating, Nana was still always very present in my life, often giving me surprise calls to say hi and check in, and of course never missing a birthday or a name day. It wasn't always the smoothest back and forth when conversing via mobile phone with Nana, but it was plenty for me to just know that I was on her mind. And of course, we still had the holidays that were always made complete by Nana's effort to be present for them. So these are times I will always remember and truly cherish forever. Thank you.
I think I have some words from my youngest cousin, Nicholas. And
Sure.
Our grandmother, Nana, as we would affectionately call her, was a caring, bold, interesting woman who always spoke her mind. As the youngest grandchild, I had less time to be with her, but I was able to understand a lot about her. Her deeply held belief that education was supremely important for everyone was apparent, even in the last years of her life, when after understanding who you were, she would ask, "How is school? And what are you studying?" often more so than seemed necessary. This certainly made me question myself more often than not as an undecided college student. I remember her as a strong woman with an iron will, even in old age. This was a reminder to me of the way in which she accomplished what she did in her life. In a time when women were told to stick to just being a housewife, she finished the University of Chicago and later passed on the torch of knowledge by being a beloved teacher. At the same time, she created a family with my grandfather, whom I unfortunately never met. This fact makes me quite happy because otherwise I wouldn't be here. In 5th grade, I interviewed Nana for a school assignment. I would like to read my conclusion. I love my grandmother, and I know that she loves me very much. She always tells me that I am wonderful and smart and a good athlete and that she is very proud of me. She likes to talk to me on the phone, but unfortunately I do not see her very often because she lives in Chicago. When we go to the States, I spend a lot of time with her. Now that I know more things about my Nana, it will not change our relationship, but it is just interesting to know more about her personality and achievements. I am proud that I have a grandmother who has achieved many things. Most of all, though, is that she loves me as I love her, and she is a great person and fun to be with. In conclusion, I just want to say that Every second of my life, Nana is next to me, giving me strength, courage, and hope to continue doing the best I can in my life. One final thought from Nicholas. I'm sorry I was not able to attend your funeral, Nana, but know that you will always be in my heart. Love, your grandson, Nicholas.
Where's the
Do you have a series?
Oh, check that table.
Is it over
Oh, sorry.
there? Sorry, we got it here.
So this is from our cousin Vasily, obviously another grandchild of Nana's. Vasily says, I'm sorry I cannot be there. I'm working at a hospital doing research and working on my USMLE exams. I have many fond memories of Nana. I stayed with her and my grandmother Antonia at her house in Lake Forest in 1989 when my parents were visiting China and were caught in the middle of the Tiananmen Square protests. She took me to the Field Museum because I like dinosaurs, and as long as I took a nap in the afternoon, she would buy me candy or Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle toys. She came to Greece twice, once in the 90s when she saw me participate in a track meet, and again in 2009 with Uncle Dean for Christmas. She would tell me about how she got a degree in economics from the University of Chicago and that there were very few women in the class. I got to see her in Chicago during summers of 2010, 11, and 12 when I was doing research and observership at Rush. In 2014 and 2015, she was in Miami, and I was lucky to have the chance to spend time with her. I remember how during my stays in Chicago, she would walk around with a 3-wheel walker and do the chores around the house, and how independent and strong she was. She was resilient and sharp every time I saw her. She loved to tell me about past experiences in her life as a teacher and about Papu. I remember going to Chicago for Christmas when I was little and staying there with Nana, Papu, and Nicole and Andrew. I remember how Andrew and I were afraid of Uncle Dean's portrait in his room. Which is very true, it still haunts me to this day. She was the center around which the family revolved and the glue that kept us all together. She inspired me to work hard and study hard, and I was happy that she saw me graduate college and medical school. She set high standards for all of us, and I always told myself that if she could do it, so could I. She was gregarious and fun to be around and very much in command. Her presence was always felt when she was with us. You will always be in my heart, Nana, and in my thoughts and prayers. I love you.